Speaker Huffman and Representative Richardson, welcome back to a traveling episode of Message from the House.
Yeah, good to be back.
Great to be here.
Rep. Richardson, we are not in our studio, so I just want to ask kind of where are we and what are we doing here today?
Great question. We are in Lima, and we are at the JFS. It's the Job and Family Services facility. It's a great facility, by the way, and they've been wonderful hosts. And we are here because our committee, the Veterans and Military Development Committee, toured the Lima tank plant, and we learned a tremendous amount, and we conducted a public meeting here.
Wonderful. Speaker Huffman, what's your reaction of being in your hometown for that?
Well, I like doing legislative business when I don't have to leave town. So it's great that happens once every few years. Anyway, we're doing things directly, official legislative business here in Lima. But this committee meeting was as a result of the chair's work, extensive work. This is the 7th such meeting around the state. And the idea, although there are certainly the veterans portion of the work that the committee does, but also this military development that's just mentioned. And we've really tried to focus on getting out in the field, finding out what it is the GA and the House can do to help military development.
What was your reactions to getting to tour that plant today? What did you think of it?
It was my first opportunity ever to be in the facility. And I can tell you, having seen the equipment at work in war and in other locations, seeing it being made was very, very impressive. It made me think about the talent that we have to be able to do it and how valuable it is of a resource right here in Ohio. And it's a national treasure. And I felt a great deal of pride. And it's not even my district.
Close, kind of, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I've actually, I think it's maybe the 5th time I've toured since the mid-90s when I was on city council. And there was a real crisis 22, 23 years ago when us locals call it the tank plant. They changed the name to the Joint Systems Manufacturing Center. But the task force Lima was formed not only to deal with that impending closure, but now I think is a great model for other communities, military places that have military facilities, to continue to monitor this operation to make sure that the business is coming through. We had a great presentation. They talked about new sales to places like Morocco and Egypt and Saudi Arabia. That's continuing at the plant to other countries now. So it's an extraordinary facility, not only in terms of its size, but the complexity of what they're producing.
And I think you brought up a great point today that, the representatives, you aren't getting paid extra to travel around to, our various districts to have this committee. Why was this so important, Rep. Richardson and Speaker Huffman? Obviously, you've supported this, but why have these traveling committees been so important?
I can answer that really, really simply. When I look at the quality of the representatives that serve on the Veterans and Military Development, I call it the team, but it's the committee. Mm-hmm. Bringing them to locations where they can physically look at and interact with locals. They can hear what the locals are experiencing, what their concerns are, what their thoughts are. We benefit from it. We learned from it, and we learned quite a bit today. So I'm very, very glad we were able to come.
Yeah. Well, a few years ago, in a previous job, I toured the base up in Youngstown. And we had just passed Senator Rogner's bill regarding spouses of military personnel being able to use their licenses from other states. And the folks up there said, because you've passed this, we are now higher on the list of where the U.S. military may bring various functions. And there was almost sort of by an accident. And what we began doing, and what I've asked Chair Richardson to do, which he has really embraced and run with, is let's go out in the field and find those things out. What can we do? So a lot of it is, of course, the military, the technology, the things like that, but a lot of it is, maybe not as exciting, but, we just passed in the House a few weeks ago a bill dealing with making it easier for folks in to get childcare on military bases. Now, you don't think about that as national defense, but here in Ohio, it's a great place to be, to live if you're in the military, and that's what we want people to know.
Wonderful.
And I will just add to that I learned specifically about that concern, and we heard it very, very loudly, so to speak, from when we went to Wright-Patterson Air Base.
Okay.
Right.
And so that's a perfect example of how our visits can make a difference. Just in November, in fact, to the speaker's credit, it was at 1 a.m, we passed the KC-46 resolution. And that was another piece of legislation that was the result of, we heard from the National Guard, and we heard from Rick when we were at Rickenbacker, and they told us we want those KC-46s. And so we are taking action on what we hear.
I love the Rickenbacker Airport, but I always have to remember that it is a very, accomplished base as well. Mm-hmm. We heard from a variety of organizations today and officials. I know that it's a lot to summarize, but was there anything that stood out to you in particular from all those presentations?
Well, I have, I think for me, and maybe this is a reiteration of a rediscovery, so to speak, I think the public, when they hear the National Guard, they don't view it as, in many ways, on the same par as the other U.S. military. People don't know, for example, there were the National Guard, the Texas National Guard in particular, they were at Omaha Beach. They've been serving, Vietnam, every major war. There was a National Guard in Ohio before Ohio was a state. And so the breadth of the things, for example, that the Ohio National Guard does, most Ohioans have no idea. We were talking about the fact that they staff air missile defense in Washington, D.C. The Ohio National Guard does that. And they're deployed around the world, and the number of both Army units and air units. And then finally, I would add, and I don't think most people know this either, there is beyond that an Ohio militia that's officially recognized by the state of Ohio, which is an all-volunteer force. There's both a naval and a land Ohio militia. These folks, there's some of the things are paid for by the state. So in our Adjutant General is here today, talked about the fact that the Air National Guard in Ohio is the most extensive of all 50 states. So if you, I think people should at least consider getting on a website and saying, wow, I had no idea the Ohio National Guard was this big.
To add to that, we were very honored that the TAG came today and presented. He had to make the trip, and they're very busy.
Yeah.
And so we're extremely grateful for all of that our Guard does. And I will just add my experience today. I'm pretty inspired. I was mentioning to the speaker afterwards the fact that we have a task force, Lima, that's looking and dedicated to protecting, advocating for the local military installation here, the JSMC, but also all of the suppliers and the economic pipeline for the community, and they rally, and they have been for many years actually, and we really I haven't seen that to the same extent in every community we've visited. So I think Lima should be very proud of that.
I want to conclude with the question of, what do you believe that these presentations and your tour today conveyed about Northwest Ohio when it comes to military presence and, the defense economy? Talk me through that.
Well, I mean, if you mind, Chair, I mean, I think that what specifically about this part of the state in this facility is that it has this wonderful history going back to World War II, and that's all fine. There's a lot of places that have wonderful history. But I think what we found today was that this is a vibrant, current facility that is supplying these vehicles to the United States, but also to our allies. And as one of the speakers concluded there today, that it's very unlikely that this plant could close because of the important things that it does. It's really, it's the only place that's producing battle tanks in the United States. I was happy to hear one of the questions I asked was, where does the steel come from this? Every piece of steel used in that plant is made in a United States steel mill. And then finally, just to conclude, what they're doing here in Ohio, with a couple of exceptions, is part of a process all over the country. So there are portions of these vehicles being sent to places in Florida, in Michigan, in Alabama. And so, it certainly is part of an interconnected web, but this facility is really top notch.
Representative.
I think one of the takeaways I had was it's very adaptable. It adapted to, and instead of just having tanks, they have strikers, they have other vehicles. They changed their model as well, so that they were able to extend the outreach to other countries. And we learned that Poland's a big beneficiary of the products. And so I think Northwest Ohio has a lot to be proud of here.
Yeah.
And I'm from Central.
Yeah. We have to get through your district, right?
Yeah,
To
right
get
through Union
here,
County,
right?
right up 33 to get here, Tracy.
That's
how I
right.
got
Has
here,
to be one of the best.
Right.
That's right. If not the.
Well, Representative Richardson and Speaker Huffman, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great.
Thanks.
Good to be.
It's a great program. Congratulations on over a year now.
I know.
Yeah,
That's
yes.
awesome.
Message from the House.
Yes,
All right.
we're very excited. Quickly, if you all would like to follow us on social media, you can follow us on the Ohio House GOP Caucus on Facebook, Ohio House_GOP on Instagram, and OHR GOP Caucus on Twitter. You can subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Great job today.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here. I appreciate it.